And this webinar will be focused on the new features that we've introduced in maintenance releases 89 through 92. So this webinar is going to be conducted by my colleague, Svetlana Melnichuk, who is our project manager, and myself, Mike Idik, product officer at PortaOne. So this is what we are going to cover today. We will speak about new features in PortaSwitch and a few other things, a few other products, if you like. There are a couple of features which are related to regulatory compliance, so that's why we have it as a separate topic. Of course, we will cover new integrations with various systems and solutions from other companies. I will talk a little bit about what we are planning to do next. I mean, in the near future with maintenance releases that are that will be released in the next few months. And of course, as I mentioned, at the end of the webinar, we will allocate time to answer your questions. So with this, I'm passing the microphone to Svetlana, and she will talk about new features.
Hello, everyone. I'll continue the presentation. And our first topic is call supervision. Customers that use IPCentrex can now supervise their colleagues' call in real time. This is very popular features among call centers. A manager may need to listen in on a sales agent's call, guide them, or participate in the calls. So we have added 3 modes: spy, whisper, and barged in. A manager chooses a particular mode by dialing specific feature code. In spy mode, a manager can join an active call without revealing his presence. For example, manager can silently monitor agent performance to provide feedback and suggest some improvements after the call. In whisper mode, a manager can speak to the agent directly while the client is not hearing him. For example, a manager can use this mode while they are training a new agent. And the last one is barged in mode. A manager can speak to both parties, the agent and the client. The manager who is listening to the call in spy mode may decide to intervene. So he or she switch to barged in mode by dialing a specific code. So what benefits do we have here? With this feature, you can offer better product to your call centers, and call centers can monitor and improve the quality of their service. And our next topic is IPCentrex administration. There are a couple of improvements available in new releases that can simplify the process of IPCentrex administration. The first feature is API to self-manage extension. You can use this feature when creating self-care portals in your PBX for your PBX customers. So they can create, remove, or update extensions on their own. Now the PortaBilling API allows creating new extensions, and the corresponding accounts are generated automatically. When your customer create or update extension, they could also assign the CPE on their own. In order for your customer to be able to do that, for you or your reseller must first allocate CPE to the customer. And this is second new feature in the area of IPCentrex administration. You can allocate CPE in CPE inventory by selecting specific devices and assigning them to particular customers. CPE assignment is particularly useful when your customer prefers to order extra units when buying CPEs. These both features significantly reduce the number of requests from your customer that you process. And CPE assignment eliminates the risk of human errors. For example, when CPE is sold for one customer and it's assigned to another one. And there is another nice feature which has nothing to do in the administration section. but it's so useful for PBX customers that we decided to mention it. With new release, end user can activate the on-demand call recording by DTMF codes. There is an option called allow to start or stop recording manually. This option enables a specific account to use this feature. To start or to stop the recording, the user dials DTMF code. For example, to start the recording during the call, they can dial star 44, and to stop the recording, star 45. So the on-demand call recording is available for all end user, no matter what SIP phone they use. And let's move further. And our next topic is multiple users for customer self-care portal. This is another feature that we know you have been waiting for. As you're well aware, business customer could have only single sets of credentials for self-care portals. And now business customer can create their employees with individual credentials and role-based permissions to the customer self-care portal. For example, separate credentials can be provided to hosted PBX administrator who has access to PBX configuration only, and to an operation manager who can view only financial information. To create this credential, the PortaBilling administrator creates customer individuals with specific role assigned. The credentials sent to the employees' emails. Additional individuals can be also created by customers themselves, this method is available via API. With this feature, the PortaBilling administrator can trace who made the changes on the customer portal. And what are the main benefits here? Customer can get tighter control over user access to the company data, can request audit information about each user's activity from the service provider, and can manage access to the portal on their own without the need to contact the service provider. And let's move further. And our next topic is reseller charging per end user subscription. Until now, if a reseller sells package with a recurring fee to his customer, your only revenue was usage charges. Moreover, if a reseller charged a monthly fee for a particular feature, it didn't generate any revenue for you. But with new release, you can charge your reseller a periodic fee for every customer they sign up to a service package. The administrator create a product or add-on product with reseller subscription and account subscription. Reseller subscription contains a periodic fee that you charge the reseller for each account of their customer. And account subscription contains your recommended periodic fee that reseller can charge their customers. Reseller subscription and account subscription are independent and may be configured differently. The reseller can adjust the periodic fee for an individual account, and change in price for an account subscription does not influence reseller subscription. So with this feature, service provider can get additional revenue and sell their service packages through additional sales channels. And our next feature, SIP update for keepalive checks. When PortaSwitch processes a call, it sometimes happens that one or both call parties lost connectivity. If PortaSwitch is not aware about such condition, the call would be considered active and last maximum allowed time, which is 3 hours by default. After the call's timeout, the system would charge for three full hours. To avoid such situation, PortaSwitch periodically check if both call parties are active. Until now, PortaSwitch has been using SIP invites for that, which are not handled properly by some customers' equipment. But with this release, PortaSwitch can send a SIP update instead of SIP invite request for keepalive call monitoring. So service providers can apply accurate charges for HAN calls if the customer or vendor equipment supports only SIP update requests. And finally, my favorite topics. I'll tell you a little bit about new version of Web3 Dialer and our new small product. It's a browser extension called Click2Call. So we have a new redesigned version of Web3 Dialer. The design is totally changed. It becomes more intuitive and quite modern. What is more, now we have a version for mobile devices. Also, along with the redesign, we have added a few features like recent calls, favorite contacts, and there is a new page where the user can edit some basic information about his contact, like company name, mobile phone number, etc. And this is a screenshot of Web3 Dialer from my desktop. You can see here contacts. There's favorites context selected, recent calls tab, and info tab with call recording where you can play it or download it. And this is a screenshot from my mobile phone of Web3 Dialer. The same screens: contacts, recent calls, DL part, how it looks like, and the last screen is a screen from active call. And our second small product is browser extension called Click2Call. It's available for Google Chrome and Firefox. With this extension, you can easily make a call to any phone number from a web page. All you need is to click make a call to, and then it will be automatically redirected to your registered device.
Okay, thank you, Svetlana. I will continue a presentation from now on. We do have a couple of features in the area of regulatory compliance. So let me go over those. Just a second. Yeah, the first one is stir shaken support. That's a regulation which is adopted in North America, United States, particularly United States, and I believe in Canada as well. And I also read that it's supposed to be implemented in American dialing plan, basically in any country where the country code is one. Yeah, some of the islands around the United States and so on. So the idea, or the reason for this regulation is basically an attempt to reduce the number of robocalls or spam calls. People are getting more and more of those calls, and companies generating those calls went as far as using fake numbers as the caller ID or spoofing the caller ID. So when you receive such a call, you think that it's a person, you get a call from a person that you know, but in reality, it's just, you know, a company trying to sell something is calling you. And to basically to fight with that problem, regulation has been adopted. So basically, all service providers are forced to validate the caller ID, like to check authenticate the source of the call. And get the call signed. So there is a digital signature which get embedded into the call. Those signatures are produced by third-party companies. There are authorized companies who can create the signatures and also verify the signatures. So let's say service provider A has a customer who makes a call. Obviously, after authentication, the service provider sends the call to the third party to get it signed, basically to add a digital signature. And when the call is sent to the next service provider, to a carrier B, that carrier can again send the call to the third party to verify the signature. And once they get the confirmation, they can include a special indicator before the call is sent to the actual end user who is being called. So when end user receives the call, they can clearly see whether the identity of the caller was verified or not. Of course, if it's verified, no problem, the user can answer the call. But if there is no indicator that the identity has been verified, then the user can decide, like, if I want to take a risk, I may answer this call. If I don't want to risk it, I can just reject the call. And the regulation also says that I believe by the end of this year, the service providers can reject calls which do not include this signature. So basically, there are two reasons to have this stir shaken implemented, and that's what we now have in PortaSwitch. Is first to be compliant. So when you send calls to another carrier, they don't get rejected. And secondly, of course, it's a better user experience for your customers because they can clearly see if this is if this call is really coming from that phone number, or maybe there is a risk that the number is fake. The second regulation is for European Union, or actually it's for European Economic Area with Switzerland and UK included. The regulation is called Secure Customer Authorization, and it's used for online payment. Secure Customer Authentication. So regulation says that any online transaction made with credit or debit card has to undergo additional authentication. That authentication has to be through some other methods rather than checking the credit card number, the owner of the credit card, the CVV code from the back of the card. It has to be some other method, like, for example, sending a one-time password to a mobile number associated with the credit card and forcing the user to enter that one-time password. Obviously, this regulation was introduced to fight with credit card fraud, which is quite popular these days, and even in countries like, in EU and in US, Canada, it's still happening these days. So the goal is to reduce the number of cases where, people use stolen credit cards and things like that. We've already introduced STA for Stripe payment processor, the one that is available in our iPass platform. And if you work with other payment processor and you need to be SA compliant, feel free to contact us and we will add this support into other payment processor as well. The reason why you may want to be concerned with this, with this regulation and basically to make an effort to become SCA compliant is that regulation says that banks have the right to reject payments if they are not SCA compliant. So if they do not pass this additional authentication. It's not happening yet. At least I haven't heard of any cases in European countries of banks rejecting such payments, but it may start anytime this year. Yes, and of course, if you have customers, who have their credit cards issued by different banks, eventually some of the banks will start rejecting payments which are not SCA compliant. So that's why you should get your online payments SCA compliant at one point. Then let's talk about various integrations that we've introduced in MR89-92. The first one here is a topic which has been long forgotten. I know that in last couple of webinars we haven't touched auto provisioning of IP phones, and there is actually a good reason for that. Like, we didn't mention any new models that were available for auto provisioning. The reason is simple. Our webinar is mostly focused on PortaSwitch features. And I believe more than a year ago, we moved auto provisioning of IP phones into a cloud-based service. I mean, into our iPaaS platform. So when a new model is added, it's only added on a PaaS platform. It's not added to PortaSwitch like it used to be some years ago. And the obvious benefit of doing it this way is that, you know, for iPaaS, you just need a subscription. You don't need to update your PortaSwitch to the latest version. For yelling T33, you know, become supported and to start auto provisioning those phones. But there is another benefit. This list is growing much faster these days. I mean, the list of supported models, because manufacturers of the phones started to create those modules for auto provisioning on their own. So now it's not, I mean, it does not require PortaOne engineer to get involved when a new model has to be added to the list of the auto provision models. And it actually works pretty much like it used to work when this auto provisioning was available in PortaSwitch. Because once you get your iPaaS subscription, once you you know, have it configured, these new models, they just show up in the list of supported models on the Porta billing web interface, just like, you know, in a normal way. So among those models that were traditional, that were added long time ago, you will just see in the list these new models that they are now supported. Oops, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. Let me try to restart screen sharing. Or should I just relaunch the presentation? Funny. The first time I see something like that happening to Google Slides. Sorry about that. Let's try refreshing it. I hope it's going to work. Yeah, perfect. So let's continue. Now, the next one is integration with a new payment processor called Plug and Pay. Those of you who participated in the previous webinar back in October remember that we introduced support for payment processors in the iPaaS platform, and the first one was Stripe, which I already mentioned. And I promised during that webinar that we will be adding more, you know, more payment processors to our cloud-based service. So here we go. This is the second one to be added to the platform. It's an American, or actually New York-based company, which has been around since 1996, I believe. It's probably not the big name like PayPal or something, but it is quite popular in the United States, at least. So if you need an alternative for your existing payment processor, or you just consider starting accepting online payments, you can sign up for iPaaS and get Plug and Pay ready for you just in a matter of a couple of days. So that's the new payment processor which is supported now. The next one is a little bit funny, I would say. So basically, we've done integration with another camel diameter gateway. And you know, camel is a standard protocol for 3G networks. And since Porta billing natively supports radius and diameter, if you need to operate a 3G network, obviously you need some sort of a gateway to connect Porta billing with a mobile core. The reason I call this topic funny is because some people may say like, hey, come on, we are in 2021. Who cares about 3G? Like, come on, this is the era of 5G. You know, at least LTE and 4G has been around for a few years now. So why would you bother with 3G? Well, on the right, I have a list of top countries with 5G coverage. And you can see that even in those countries that the reach, the 5G reach, is far from covering even, well, in most cases, is far from covering even half of the country. And in most countries, it's even less. Yeah, I mean, the coverage is not that great. Of course, the coverage for 4G is much better these days. So in most areas, there is 4G connectivity for the mobile users, but still there are places on this globe, and quite a few places on this globe, which don't have 4G or 5G coverage. So if you need to offer services in such areas, I mean, mobile services in such areas, you would definitely need to connect Porta billing with 3G mobile core. And this gateway, Pharos CAG, is just another option among other camel diameter gateways that we have integrated in our product. And the last one is IPCentrex onboarding wizard. So that's basically a wizard for a quick provisioning of new hosted PBX customers, or IPCentrex customers. I know that it took a while for you to set up a new PBX customer, you know, with creating all the extensions, hunt groups, creating a customer accounts and all that stuff. You know, in Porta billing interface, you have to go to multiple different places and create a lot of objects, you know, to get the customer provision. So that the reason why we created this wizard, because we had stories from our customers like, hey, I can provision only like 2 new customers per day. So like within business hours, it takes so much time that I generally get only 2 customers, you know, provisioned during a single day. So it means it takes a lot of time. This wizard gives you access to all needed features of hosted PBX, of course, creating extension, hunt groups, setting up auto attendant, you know, all the configuration, all the features, they are all in a single place, designed in a very easy to use way. I would actually love to show you how it looks like and how it works, but we have many topics to cover and it's only a 1-hour, you know, webinar. But I encourage you to check our website, because we did conduct a dedicated webinar about this wizard approximately a month ago. So if you check our news section, you will see an article about this webinar, and you will also get a recording of that webinar, so you can watch it and you can, and in that webinar, the wizard is demonstrated, you know, to its full potential. Like there is a full-scale presentation, and my colleague actually sets up a PBX, like does a complete configuration of the PBX within that, you know, within that webinar. So as I mentioned, it greatly reduces the time required to set up a single PBX, and it's very easy to use. So the best thing about it is that it's not only a tool for you as a Porta billing administrator or PortaSwitch administrator, you can actually open access to it or provide access to it to your customers. And you can use it as a self-provisioning portal. So basically, when a new customer signs up for your IPCentrex service, they can just go to that wizard. They can set up their PBX in a very intuitive and simple way, just with a matter of a few clicks for all the, you know, basic operations. It is available via iPaaS, so you need a subscription to use it. But I think a good place to start is to check our dedicated webinar describing this wizard in more details. Now let's speak about near future, what we are going to do next and what we are going to work on in the next few months. First of all, I will start with the current status of our development. So the latest long life supported release is MR90. And I know it's only build one, and some of our customers are kind of reluctant to update to build one. But don't worry, we are going to release MR90 build 2 in just 2 weeks. So I believe the date is 13th of May when it's going to be released. So you can already start planning the update if you want to jump to the next, long time supported maintenance release. The current maintenance release with all the features that we've covered today, with all these new features, has been released just less than a week ago. Yeah, so it's already available. So all the features that we are talking about here, you can get access to them. You just need to get your platform to MR92, unless it is a feature which is available through iPass. For those features, you don't need to update. And the next long-time supported release is going to be in September, and the next release with new features is going to be in June. So what are we focusing at right now? One thing is that we are building is a new version, a completely redesigned, or let's say, completely redesigned provisioning framework. Or you may know it by the names that we refer to it internally, that's Sokoban. So the idea of it is that, you or PortaOne can build small modules which will do provisioning to external platforms, be it a mobile core, an accounting software, or something else. So current ESPF is based on database triggers, and it has some drawbacks and some limitations. And the new ones that we design, we build it on the application level rather than on the database level. We try to simplify events and to make them more flexible. And since it's application level rather than database level, we can, in the future, we can get more events, more specific events available, for this, for developing these provisioning modules. The other thing is that it will be easier to develop modules, because as of now, most of the provisioning modules have been developed by PortaOne engineers. The new generation of provisioning framework is going to be designed in a way that it will encourage third-party developers to build these provisioning modules. Along with that, we are also redesigning our API. I know that our API covers most of the Porta billing functionality, and it's kind of feature-rich, but third-party developers have challenging navigating through those various methods and all the parameters in those methods, especially those developers who are not that proficient with Porta billing. They don't know all the terminology, various objects, how those objects relate to each other, and so on and so on. So now we are trying, we have started to build a new version of the API, which is going to be more business-centered, or more centered around, usage scenarios of Porta billing, rather than data model or, individual fields, individual objects on the data levels that we have in Porta billing. And the other project that is ongoing, that is running, that is, we are building the self-care portal for hosted PBX and IPCentrex customers. If you remember, we presented a new portal for SIP trunking customers probably a year ago. And I mentioned that PortaOne came to conclusion that a single self-care portal doesn't work for all kinds of users. There is no such thing as one size fits all. So with that understanding, we started to build customized portals for particular type of users, or for particular type of service that you provide to the user. And SIP trunking portal was the first one. and this is the second one, a dedicated portal for IPCentrex users. And the plan is that eventually we will discontinue our kind of default portal that we currently have, and we will replace it with this, dedicated portal for different types of dedicated portals for different types of users. So that's where we are heading. And of course, as usual, we will be more than happy to work on any additions, any features that you may need for your operations. Just please contact our support and we'll take it from there. My favorite topic, meeting customers, something which I allowed to do in the past before the coronavirus age, and something which hasn't been happening for the last year, within the last year. So we are considering to participate in Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, which is going to happen end of June. It's not confirmed yet. It's still under consideration. There are some challenges, especially with travel these days. So it may happen that we will not be able to participate, but we keep our fingers crossed, and I hope to meet at least some of you in Barcelona at the end of June. I mean, if everything goes well, I will be present there myself. Of course, our CEO, Andriy Zhelenko, will be there, and a lot of my colleagues as well. But while we are waiting for, for trade shows and events, to open again, we do conduct online webinars dedicated to various topics. We always publish news about webinars on our website. I already mentioned one of the webinars. I said that we had a dedicated webinar about a month ago for this PBX provisioning wizard. Actually, one of the other topics, steer shaking regulation, is also covered by a dedicated webinar. There is a recording of that webinar available on our website. And I also encourage you to talk to your customer success manager or CSMs. If you have any, suggestions, ideas, if you have any requests, or if you want to provide feedback about our product, about how PortaOne operates, anything, feel free to contact your customer success manager. So that's it for today. This is just a short list of the features that we've covered. So let's now move on to the questions, and I already have a number of questions. Let me open the list. And I'll try to answer all of them. So there is a question. The simplest question, like, are you going to get the presentation? Yes, you will have the recording of this session and the presentation, and also this Q&A session. We will publish it on the website probably within a week, maybe 2, after the webinar is concluded. And yeah, you will be able to download it from our website. So that one is answered. The next question. It's a question about multiple users for customer self-care portal, the features that Svetlana covered. In which version it is available? It is available in MR92, the latest version, which we have just released a week ago. The next one, the question about resellers, and it's a natural question. So the question is basically, is there going to be something like we have on customer level for simultaneous call limitation? We have this feature called measured services, which can track concurrent calls, or which can check the concurrent call limitation, and based on that, charge the customer. And the question, if we are going to do that along with reseller level subscriptions that Svetlana has described. So the short answer is no, we haven't introduced it yet. If you have a business need for this feature, please talk to us and we'll develop it for you. But for now, there is no such feature on the reseller level. The next one. The question about keepalive packets. I know that this feature has been requested quite a few times in the past, because there is still quite a lot of equipment which goes crazy when they receive an invite during the call. Like some devices think that it's a new call, some devices just, you know, get like crash basically, or things like that. And I remember a number of customers asking about SIP update, support for the update method of keepalives. Now the question here is whether SIP update replaces SIP invite, and starting from which version. Don't worry. Maybe we didn't make it clear enough during our presentation, but it's not a replacement. It's an alternative method. So the good old SIP invites are still supported and will be supported. SIP update is just an alternative method. So you can decide in the service policy, you can basically choose which method you want to use for keepalive packets. The SIP updates were introduced, if I'm not mistaken, in MR. Which one is that? I'll have to double check, but I believe it was MR91. The next question. The question is about stir shaking and whether all SIP phones supposed to be compatible. You know, SIP phones supposed to be compatible with this new standard, new regulation, so they can show this special indicator whether the identity is verified or not. And thank you. This is a very good question. Like probably the best question about this new feature. The reason is that there is no standard for this indicator yet. There is still a debate in the community, I mean, among the telecoms and regulator, like how should this call be indicated, like that the caller ID has been verified. So since we do it on a SIP level, we've done it in our own way, and I know that several carriers in US also do it this way. We add capital V in front of the number, which looks like a check mark. You know, V like, you know, like a check mark. So basically, if the identity is verified, we just add a single letter in front of the phone number. And I know that multiple carriers do it in the same way. There were attempts to do it on a like in a proprietary way with some special tags on the SIP level, but it hasn't become a standard yet. There is still a debate whether it should be done like this or not. So to answer your question, like should all SIP devices should they be compatible with stir shaking? Well, in case when they connect to PortaSwitch, no, there is no special compatibility required because it's just a reformatted phone number. So yeah, you can use pretty much any SIP phone. I mean, your customers can use it, pretty much any SIP phone, and it would still work. They would still see this indication that the identity has been verified. There is a question about ESPF, this new version of ESPF that we are introducing. Like, is it going to replace the old ESPF or not, or will the database trigger still be, you know, in use? I would say it's a bit too early to say, like to provide you with a firm answer. but most likely no. Most likely we will completely move everything to the application level. On the application level, we designed the architecture and we built the solution that it can withstand a much higher load. It can process much higher number of events than the existing solution. So since performance is going to be better, since the flexibility is going to be better, I mean, more events will be available in the future. I think most likely there will simply be no reason to keep the old technology, but it's too early to say. Once we have a working prototype and we, test it under heavy load and it proves to be what it's supposed to be, like sustaining a much higher load, then we'll be able to decide whether we keep the old technology or not. Another question about WebTreat. Svetlana, would you like to answer that one? Whether WebTreat is going to replace mobile and PC app?
So actually, we have two products here. The first one is WebTreat Dialer. It's a application, or it's a browser version of dialer. It's used WebRTC technology. It can be used from your desktop, or it can be used from mobile devices via browser. And the second product that we have is WebTreat Phone. It's under development right now, and I think that later we will update you with the release data of WebTreat Phone. So,
yeah. So to summarize it, it's basically, for now, WebTreat is a web-based application which requires a browser, and the native smartphone app is going to be released later. Once we have the release date for it, we will definitely announce it on our website. So we are done with these two questions about WebTreat. There is a question about the API. I mentioned that we are building the new version of API, and whether it's going to completely replace the old API, or it's going to work alongside. Sorry, replace the old API, or it's going to work alongside the old API. So the short answer is, initially it's going to work like both versions of the API will be supported. We understand that it. When you have some integration with PortaBilling that utilizes the API, it will take you some time to adjust your code, or maybe to redevelop whatever third-party software is integrated with PortaBilling. We understand that you need development resources, and it's not like an easy thing which you can change, switch from one version to API to another version just within one day. So we are going to do it gradually. We are going to basically support two versions of API during at least a few maintenance releases. But eventually we will discontinue the old API. It's not going to happen, as I said, it's not going to happen instantly, but eventually that's what's going to happen. The old API will be discontinued. But don't worry, we will allow you, we will give you sufficient time to migrate your existing integrations to the new API. I don't know, it will be at least several months, if not more, maybe even a year, before we discontinue the old API. So that answers a couple of questions as well. Let's see what we have left here. There is a question about updating from 85 to 91 or 92. So there are kind of two aspects to this question. Like, first of all, is 91 and 92 stable? And then the second part, like, whether the customer can do such an update. So just for those of you who are not aware, Currently, we support updates. If we speak about traditional updates, we support updates only for the next, in brackets of 5 versions. So from MR85, you will still have to go to MR90 first, and then from MR90, you can go further. And it goes for all versions. Like, so if you are on MR70, you have to go to 75, then 80, and so on. Yeah, so jumps are, for traditional updates, jumps are allowed only between, within 5 version reach, only between long-term supported maintenance releases. Now, we also have another solution, which you've probably heard about multiple times before, that's called dual version PortaSwitch. So where along with your existing installation, you deploy a new version of PortaSwitch and you gradually migrate customers from one version, from the old version to the new version. That technology has been around for more than a year now. We have several customers who undergone such updates. So far, we received only positive feedback about this kind of updates. So if you want to jump across more than 5 versions up, that would be your way to go. Yeah, your solution. But as I mentioned, it requires you to, to prepare and deploy additional installation of PortaSwitch next to your existing installation. And speaking about whether these versions are stable or not, this version has version 91 and 92. They have undergone through our standard rigorous testing that we do for every maintenance release. So they have been tested by our QA. But obviously this version, since we released MR92 just a week ago, it's not used yet in production. Yeah, so it hasn't been tested in vivo, like on our customer installation. So it's up to you. You have to decide whether you want to deploy it now, you want to wait for deployment earlier, maybe you want to deploy it using dual version technology. It's your decision. What else do we have? And yeah, we still have 5 minutes, so let me answer. There is a question about, it's not really related to this webinar, but I will just mention because maybe there are some other customers who are not aware of this. So the question is about rating in 3 steps. And if I understand the question correctly, it's basically rating based on both on the destination number and on the originating number. For example, whether the call is originated within EU or outside of EU. And I'm not sure why we get this question, because I believe this was covered in the previous webinar, and it's been supported for at least half a year. So it is already supported. I mean, this kind of rating, which is based on CLI, CLD, it's already available in the company. Anyway, if it's not your case, if you meant something else, then let's take this discussion offline. There are just a couple of questions left. So there is a question whether we are going to introduce self-care, dedicated self-care portal for call center customers. We already have parts of the call center self-management. For example, we've done integration with I don't remember the name of that company on the spot, but we've done an integration with operator panel, basically where operator in call center can manage calls, like, dispatch those calls, connect them to different people and so on. So that one is available. We've done like our IPCentrex self-care, the ones that we are building now will have quite a few features which are typically used by call centers. But if we speak like a full-blown, full-featured call center portal with, statistics of agent performance, with live call monitoring and things like that, statistics on call queues and all that stuff, there are no immediate plans to build it. Again, if it's something which is business critical for you, feel free to contact our support and we can launch that project. But for now, there are no immediate plans to build that portal. I mean, within the next couple of months. There is a question about keepalive, whether to how to basically how to do it, how to utilize SIP update or SIP invite for keepalive. Is it possible to do it in one place rather than setting it up for each and every account? And as I mentioned, it is configured in the service policy. So yeah, you can have your default service policy, which is used by, let's say, by default for all your customers. If you change it in that service policy, it will be configured for all your customers. And if you need a different setting for just specific accounts, a few specific accounts or a few specific customers, you just create another service policy and you, in that service policy, use the alternative method of keepalive, or maybe you even disable keepalive completely. So that's controlled by service policies. Svetlana, can you answer the question about Web3 dialer and Click2Call? Because truth to say, I'm not even sure how we are selling it or how it's available.
Well, yeah, these features or these products, they are not free. You need to, they are provided via iPass, so you need to subscribe to these services. And you can contact our sales department and they will help you how to buy this product and how to proceed with installation of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's basically a part of, it's included in the iPass subscription, to say it short. There is a question about IP phone auto provisioning, and that's pretty much last question for today. We are already out of time. Whether for those who run older versions and hasn't updated to MR99 or even latest versions, how IP phone auto provisioning is going to work. So the way it works is that you sign up for iPass service. You don't have to update your PortaSwitch to MR90. No, for iPass, we can create a patch for your particular older version, install the infrastructure, and your iPass subscription will work even on the older version. And for some older versions, we've already done this. We've already created these patches, but we have customers with older version signed up to iPass. So no, it does not require you to get, in order to use this auto provisioning, you are not required to update your system. You can use your existing version. So thank you very much for joining this webinar. It's been a pleasure to present our new features to you. Thank you for your attention and you have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.